latest Ford's Hospital Workforce Chat, where I speak with inspirational healthcare leaders making a difference to the teams of people working in hospitals and in healthcare. Today, I'm joined by well-known Filipino prodigy, Dr. A. Who is Dr. Arnold? With the power of LinkedIn, we've known each other for some time throughout LinkedIn, but today is the day we get to speak in person. Arnold is the current Director of Clinical Education and Development at Insight Global Health, a nurse for more than 14 years with a mixture of clinical and educational experience in the Philippines, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States. A passion for education, program development, workforce upskilling, and supporting others to make a difference in the world. Dr. A is a trailblazing healthcare leader determined to contribute and showcase the talents of nurses. Thank you for joining me today, Dr. A. How are you?
Thank you so much, Athol. I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, excellent. Doing very well. I love a bit of your journey, and I'd be really keen to hear and understand, what some of your career path has been through. I know starting off in the Philippines, and then, have you just followed your nose? Have you just wandered on this journey looking to help more people or to use education to support others?
So yeah, well, my career path has been a bit tricky, to be honest. I started as an ICU nurse in the Philippines, and then in 2013, I had the opportunity to move to the Middle East, work in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So I started working as a bedside nurse, and I think this is me being Filipino and growing up in an environment where there's not a lot of, I would say, pathways for nurses. So I think I would say that back home, usually the transition for nurses usually goes into either leadership or into education or into academia. And it's very different from what we have here in the Western side of the world, because you can go into different specializations, right? So when I moved into the Middle East, my goal has always been to go up the ladder in the leadership and management pathway. But sadly enough, it didn't work well for me, even if I tried my best. And I think that was, in a way, I would say fate's way of rerouting me to the pathway of education. Because when that pathway of leadership didn't work out well, I started transitioning into the clinical education pathway, and eventually I found my niche. And I would say that I really enjoyed doing clinical education, and I started working as an education coordinator in one of the hospitals there, and then did part-time teaching as well in one of the universities there in the School of Nursing. And eventually I moved into the US just recently, I started again at the bedside, and then eventually moved into the academia as an assistant professor at one point. And then this opportunity came up, and I never would have expected that I would be moving in this pathway where I am right now, because I'm working in a healthcare staffing industry. But then I think what I would say is that when we are trying to look for our pathway as professionals, it's always good to stick to, or to find your why. Because for me, I have identified my why, and that is helping others through clinical education or through education itself. So I stuck to that why up until now. And even if I have changed my what, because I have a different workplace, I would say it's not a clinical area, it's not academia, but I'm still doing what I love doing, and that's teaching. And I will still be helping Filipino nurses or internationally educated nurses through clinical education as they transition from my home country or from wherever they are, and as they move to the US.
Yeah, perfect. I totally get that energy around contributing and helping others, and using education as a bit of a vehicle to support your why, which is so important. And I think if we teach more people or let them to envisage their why and think through that more, I think that's a really powerful way that we can not only retain nurses, but also attract them back into nursing. Is understand, well, what are you really passionate to do, and what's your purpose? What do you get it? What gets you up in the morning? It's really great to hear about your leadership journey in that regards. And I suppose thinking about that is, what are some of your top priorities as clinical education development? In this new exciting role and transitioning and helping workforces in hospitals to boost their stocks with those wonderful Filipino nurses who are hungry, who are humble, who are very smart. I'd be keen to hear what your next steps are.
I'm technically open to anything that will come my way. So because I think what I've realized over the past few months is that things can just happen and your doors can just open for you. So I'm keeping myself to whatever opportunity comes to me. But again, I will stick to my why, because based on my experience, my why has brought me to, I think, where I'm supposed to be. And like now, doing what I'm passionate about and doing something that is aligned to my personal mission as a person and as a professional. How amazing is that, to be given that opportunity, actually, to get paid to do what you love doing? I think that is what I hope for everyone.
Yeah, it's a wonderful journey, and it'd be wonderful everyone had that experience. And unfortunately, I feel like, and have seen it, we're just missing that mark, and especially in a lot of our cultures within hospitals, a lot of people are struggling to see their purpose and understand why they're there to deliver the care that they're there for. And you can see that with the significant burnout figures that we're seeing throughout hospitals across the world. And it's not in just one country. Like, we're connecting from, you're in the US and I'm in Australia. People in the UK, across the world, it's very similar. There's over 2/3 of the nursing workforce are feeling the significant impact of burnout. And I think this distraction, this loss in purpose, and this why. So I'd be really keen to see how your journey goes with your new opportunity and the teaching. On top of that, so healthcare organizations are having this nursing recruitment and retention issue. What do you think? What do you think nurses want? And I ask this with a little bit of information on the background, because I don't think pay is it. I think pay is just a certainty. Like, yes, you need to be valued for your time and effort. You need to be, paid for the work that you do. But that's just a necessity. It's not a core driver to why we do what we do. So, what do you think that nurses specifically want?
I know that this might sound crazy, but I think nurses just want a very simple thing. I think nurses just want to be heard and they want to be listened to. And that's just among the many things that they would want as well, that I feel like are very simple to actually achieve. We all know, and because we've worked at the bedside at one point, that we see the different problems that we encounter in our healthcare environments, in our healthcare settings. And I believe that all nurses are actually very innovative. They come up with solutions to their problems. And for me, it's so funny to see when, healthcare organizations will come up and say that, okay, we have these problems. But then when nurses stand up and come up with solutions, they are not listened to. And I think nurses are just tired of that. Like, I come in bringing solutions for this problem, but then there's a complete disregard in terms of what nurses can actually bring to the table. And I think that's one of the reasons why nurses are just fed up. So they're not just even leaving their organizations, they're leaving the profession. So I think that's one of the main things that nurses they want to be listened to. And to your point of, pay as not being very significant anymore, I do believe in that as well. We've seen how nurses have had massive exodus in the profession, even if there has been changes on the pay rates for nurses. And of course, yes, we would want to be paid with our worth, because I know that we are worth a lot in terms of what we do for our patients, for the community, for the world, actually. But I think it's not enough. People need, or the nurses need to feel that they are being taken care for as well. And I think another thing that I would say that nurses actually need is, and this is what I've read and heard from different healthcare leaders or from different organizations, that they have noticed based on recent studies, is that a lot of nurses are actually wanting to have vast opportunities in terms of career progression. And I think this is one of the things, being an educator, this is one of the things that I always see as being left behind. Like, education and training has always been at the backside. It has never been at the forefront, actually, in healthcare. And even when I started as an educator, I've always seen that they only call the educator when there is a problem to like reinforce the policy and procedures and something like that. So they don't usually use it as like, okay, we'll build a good foundation for you to become very educated, for you to have those skills, knowledge, so that you can have better things for yourselves and better outcomes for our patients. But it's not like that. So I think nurses are now seeing that, for organizations to actually invest in professional development, for organizations to provide career pathways for them. Because maybe like if you would want to move from the bedside to a different field of specialization, so like for both of us, for example, we've left the bedside, but we never left the profession. I am still a proud nurse. I still have my license as a nurse, but then I am not working directly with patients now, but I'm working with nurses or student nurses who will be working with patients. So I think this is one thing that organizations should start looking at, because if we provide those opportunities, we might actually sort of address the great resignation, because nurses might leave the bedside, but then you will still be able to retain those expertise, their wisdom within that profession, and we can still utilize that in a different way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And if we need to keep people within the profession, no matter what, and creating stayed cultures and having pathways for people to go to. And so if someone is feeling the impact of working clinically against the bedside, is like, well, what can we do next? How can we keep your expertise? And I think there's this significant opportunity that healthcare organizations and hospitals and systems across the world is to look after the people that have been there, the experienced staff members, the people that have seen things, that have been in the thick of the action. What can they do to keep them there? Because like yourself, we need those individuals to bring through the next generation. And the next generation aren't going to come through unless there's a mentor, if there's a leader close to them, they can ask someone, they can be guided. Because like myself, I've had some pivotal leaders early on in my career that shaped me as a nurse from day dot. And without that, I wouldn't be the nurse that I think I am today. So, I think there is this great opportunity to move that forward. You're absolutely right. I guess, if an organization or a director or someone within a hospital is listening to this, do you have any top tips for helping, to listen to nurses, but to help them to feel valued and be heard, and, to feel respected and like a valued piece of the team?
Yeah, I think my call to action for healthcare leaders anyway, in healthcare organizations, is to provide that avenue for nurses to be heard, like maintain maybe an open door policy and listen to nurses. And you see, like for healthcare leaders, you don't really have to address all the problems all at once. Just make the nurses feel that they are being listened to, and that you are doing something to actually start working on the problems that your nurses have seen in the clinic. This is now a high time for our healthcare organizations and healthcare leaders to actually invest in education and professional development, so that nurses can actually see that there is a pathway outside the bedside. And yes, we do need nurses at the bedside, because there needs to be people who take care of our sick patients, for example. But I also believe that nurses should also be given the opportunity to grow and to follow their passions. I have been passionate as a bedside nurse at one point in my career, but then eventually, as I moved forward in my career, I became passionate about education, for example. And I was afforded that opportunity because there were people who invested in me. And to your point, I was able to meet mentors as well, who dedicated their time to help me grow as a professional. So yeah, I think invest in education, provide opportunities for mentorship if that can be organized in your organizations as well.
Yeah, wonderful advice and wonderful tips for anyone who's leading a team in an organization or hospital, because I think they're fundamental principles for helping nurses to feel valued and valued and heard. Thank you, Arnold, for joining me for this chat, and it's been great to speak in virtual person, and I can't wait to connect again, and look forward to meeting in real life.
Thank you so much, Arnold, for having me.
Cheers, mate. See ya.
See ya.